The year is 20XX. 35 years have passed since the bombs have dropped, and Japan is in ruin. Most of the survivors hide away in underground bunkers, trying to shelter themselves from the demons of the outside world. With nothing better to do, you and your friend played Devil Busters on the shared PC of the bunker. But after defeating Minotaur, you unseal the demon Pazuzu who is trapped in the game cartridge, and are given the task of saving the world by God. Join us for the opening hour of Digital Devil Story, Megami Tensei 2.
Welcome to Preemptive Strike, the show where we look at the first hour of a JRPG to gauge the entertainment value of its opening act and gather statistical data to analyze the trends across different games. Join us as we journey through the rich history of JRPGs to see how their gameplay evolves and innovates from one game to the next. For each game, we'll examine how the first hour sets the tone for the rest of the journey, explore the ways in which the story and gameplay unfold to draw the player into the world and keep them coming back, as well as explain general tips, tricks, and trivia for a first-time player. Today, we'll discuss all of this and more on Preemptive Strike.
Hello and welcome to episode 10 of Preemptive Strike, the show where we talk about all things you need to know before you start your retro JRPG adventure. This week, we will be talking about Digital Devil Story Megami Tensei 2 for the Famicom, following it up from the previous episode where we covered the first game. So, a little bit of quick recap of what we covered last time. Aya Nishitani had originally written the Digital Devil Story novels. Atlus collaborated with Nishitani, as well as Namco, to produce the Digital Devil Saga Megami Tensei 1 game. And overall, it was a commercial success, and Atlus immediately started working on a sequel. And Atlus ended up buying the rights from the Digital Devil Story novels from Nishitani. But I found this weird because the story of Megami Tensei 2 is not even related to the books at all.
So the game is basically just like a fanfic, or like a fanfic to make a sequel to Megami Tensei 1.
I guess there's very slight references to the first game with what Nakajima and Yumiko did, especially towards the end of the game, but overall the stories really aren't that connected.
Okay. It's, you didn't really see connected stories in JRPGs other than Dragon Quest, but
Yeah.
you didn't really see that too much back then, so it's understandable. Hell, you don't even see it that much nowadays.
But even Dragon Quest started moving away there, because at this point, I'm getting it a little bit ahead of myself. Dragon Quest 4 just came out before this game, so Dragon Quest started moving away from the connected stories, at least at that point.
Okay.
So Megami Tensei 2 released on the Famicom April 6, 1990. It released as Kyoyaku Megami Tensei March 31st, 1995, which is the Super Famicom release that was bundled with Megami Tensei 1. And then it was brought to mobile phones Japanese mobile phones specifically, in 2006. The game also released on Japan's Wii Virtual Console, and as I mentioned before, it was developed by Atlus and published by Namco. So putting the 1990 release into perspective more, at least for Japan, so Dragon Quest IV came out just a few months before Megami Tensei 2, so that already gave it stiff competition with the JRPG genre in Japan. And there was some other big names that were released right around the same time as Megami Tensei 2, notably Final Fantasy III and the original Fire Emblem. Both of those launched within a few weeks after Megami Tensei 2 had released. And while these other games I'm going to reference aren't actually JRPGs, they're still very prominent games as a whole, so definitely still gave some competition for Megami Tensei 2. So Mega Man 3 was released in 1990, or September 1990. And then the Super Famicom, as well as Super Mario World, came out in November of 90 as well.
All right, I don't want to detract too much, but holy crap, Mega Man 3 released in 1990 on the NES? What about Mega Man 4?
How far was it? Mega Man 5 was the last NES game? Or NES Mega Man?
I might cut this out if I'm absolutely wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was 6 was the last NES Mega Man.
Wow.
Okay, this is really off track though. This is not a Mega Man podcast. This is a Megami Tensei 2 podcast for right now.
So if you're looking to play this game, you could expect about 30 hours. According to how long to beat, the main story is 25 hours. Main plus sides, 31.5 hours, and a completionist time at 37.5 hours. Although, I have a feeling if you're playing this nowadays, especially with the English translation patch, you're probably playing with speed up of some sort. As we'll get to later, there's going to be tons and tons and tons of battles, so I'm assuming the completionist time is without speed up. Alright, so at launch, Megami Tensei 2 sold for a retail price of 7,800 yen, which in 1990, converting to US dollars, is $53. And I found this interesting, like, while researching this, is that the Famicom games were priced all over the place in 1990. A lot of the reason due to the impending Super Famicom release, so some sellers just wanted to make their games cheaper so that people would buy it instead of saving up or at least spend like a little bit less money so they could save up more for the Super Famicom. Now, if you're looking to buy this game today, loose, you're going to pay for just the cartridge about $22, while complete in box is going to cost you about $70. Of course, you're going to have to import this from Japan more than likely, so maybe tariffs are going to hit you. We don't know. Megami Tensei 2 overall sold pretty decently, at least, or especially considering a small company like Atlus at the time. So the sales data comes directly from Sega and Atlus as well on their website. The Famicom version sold 216,438 copies, and then Kyoyaku Megami Tensei sold about 31,500 copies, so overall it's sold shy of 250,000 copies, considering all versions. At least physical versions, not including like digital sales like Wii Virtual Consoles, for instance. So moving on to the development. Development began immediately after the first game released, and the staff wanted more of an overhead view for navigation, since they felt that it was very easy to get lost in the first game. And I agree. That was probably my biggest complaint with the first game, at least playing the first hour of it. And like the first game, the devs really wanted to prioritize programming and game design, and then story came second. I feel like that was the design philosophy of most JRPGs at the time. I mean, we had, looking at the Final Fantasy games before, they eventually were changing their ideas that make story come first, like with Final Fantasy II, as they said in development interviews.
I find it crazy that they wanted to put the story second for a game that was based off of a book, like, at least in Megami Tensei 1's case.
Yeah, I wonder if they just saw that as, okay, well, the book already has a written story, so we could just use that as our crutch, that, like, the story will kind of happen decently, regardless. So another thing that changed with development is they were able to improve the music quality. They, according to the devs in an interview, actually, for the soundtrack that was, like, released on a CD at the time, they utilized a dedicated memory map, which basically, from what I'm understanding, is where they stored the music in memory on the cartridge made it more efficient for the console to actually read and actually call that music to play, and it just makes a better sound overall. And Chad, I'm actually gonna show you some comparisons of the music between Megami Tensei 1 and 2, because there's some repeated song, like, yeah, some of the soundtrack is the same songs from both games, so you can kind of see that difference.
Yeah, I'm down for it. Let's go.
Yeah, so we're gonna start with Megami Tensei 1. It's the battle theme, or at least the one that I encountered during my first hour of gameplay. Alright, I think that should be a good enough representation.
Yeah.
For you to get an idea. Onto the Megami Tensei 2 version.
Man, you can just hear, yeah, like, that is just so much better than Megami Tensei 1. Like, no offense if you like Megami Tensei 1's music, but there's just so much more depth to this, and the way that the notes kind of, like, pull together, like, it just feels so much more cohesive, a lot less choppy. It makes me feel like I want to fight.
Yeah, so like when I was researching the game a little bit before I started playing it, I was like, I read that on the Wikipedia. I'm like, are they just like talking out of their ass, like with the programming the music? Like, is it really going to be that different? But like, it's definitely noticeable. Like, it felt like the difference between Fantasy Star when we talked about that, like the Japanese versus English release.
Yeah, right. That was the difference of the chips that they had in the hardware. But this, you said, is just based on memory mapping.
Yes. All right, and like I still don't even think like this song is like really shows how insane the improvement is with the music. So I'm gonna play a different song. It's a different battle theme that I actually experienced, but in the first hour as well. Not like a boss theme, but like for a different area that we'll
Yeah.
get to a little bit later.
Dang, that is hard to believe that this is like a Famicom game. Seriously, because that beginning part uh, kind of reminded me of the final boss theme of Yoshi's Island, where you have like the giant baby Bowser looming
Uh
off in the
huh.
distance. Uh, some of the shredding guitar just really kind of reminded me of that. Yeah, but a Famicom game could produce this kind of sound.
Yeah, as I kept playing, like everything about this game feels more like a Super Famicom game than an actual Famicom game. Like I just kept getting blown away as I played.
Yeah, they're just like, all right, if the gameplay doesn't sell this game, the music will.
Yeah, like I understand people wanting to buy that CD. All right, so we got a little bit sidetracked with discussing music with the development, but let's get back to development for a minute. So a lot of the notable developers for this game were the same as the previous game. We have Koji Okada with being the director, Kazunari Suzuki and Ryutaru Ito being the writers. Notably, Nishitani is no longer writing for the series since they're not even going based off his stories. And then we had Tsukasa Masako with the music. Now the artist did change. Now we have Kazuma Kaneko, and he is very iconic. You've probably, if you play any Megaten, you probably recognize his name. He is relevant to this day, even when it comes to the art. And pretty much every Atlas game since Megami Tensei 2, he has been involved in at some point. He's no longer Atlas's acting art director, but he's still involved. But Kaneko's demon designs, especially, are very iconic, and they kept getting reused and remastered essentially as the future games go.
Yeah, Megami Tensei games certainly have artistic flair to them that other games don't have. This sort of like grim darkness to it that really contradicts the more heroic and the more heroic feeling RPGs that were created during this time.
Yeah, for sure. So I found it interesting too that his design, Kaneko's design philosophies, he makes sure to base the demon's design off of the various mythology and ancient civilizations that they come from. But he also mentioned that he's inspired by his close friend Hirohiko Araki. Is that a JoJo's reference?
It might very well be. Just out of curiosity, do you have a favorite demon design?
I was going to ask you that question, so I'm glad you asked.
Okay.
So, there's quite a few, but like, for me, I don't know, probably nostalgia. I saw this for the first time in SMT Nocturne for the PS2. Inugami, I used to call it a wolf slinky as a kid, just like...
Oh, yeah.
I really enjoyed using him. He pretty strong and that he evolved as well, but he got Fog Breath in Nocturne, which was very useful against Matador. What about you?
I really like the design for Fafnir. I know that's usually a late game demon, but the design for Fafnir just really speaks to the like mythology surrounding it, how he was defeated by Siegfried and whatnot. I guess I also like the angel line, especially how the angel line like evolves throughout the different types of angels that are presented. At least from my knowledge, those different forms of the angels are based off of Dante's Paradiso, which is, the third book in the Divine Comedy, the one that people probably talk about the least.
Nice. Yeah, it's pretty interesting too. Because I've grown up in a lot of Megaten games, and some of the design, or depending on like the spin-off or the game in question, like the angel design's even different.
Well, yeah, my mind jumps to the scantily clad, like, bondage angel.
Yeah, that's the more modern one for sure, but like I believe in Devil Survivor 1, I'm thinking of the design is different. I know Nekomata's design is different in that game.
Yeah, Nekomata, classic. But regardless, this is all just to say that Kaneko's a great artist, and he has a lot of great designs.
Yeah, we could go on for a long time. And you comment down below your favorite demon design or even character design. Shout out to the samurai or samurai.
The samurai.
Samurai?
The samurai.
In SMT4, I love that design. Alright, and some fun facts about the development. There is a controversial scene, I don't know, probably about like a quarter of the way through the game where the main character actually loses his arm. And it's based on a scene from The Empire Strikes Back. Like, we cannot stop getting away from Star Wars, these most recent episodes. Like, Phantasy Star being influenced by Star Wars, and now, I mean, this is just a minor scene, but still. And interestingly, too, when your main character loses his arm, he actually gets a special, like, status effect that, like, shows up on, like, and, it's basically he's bleeding out, so, like, as you walk, like, you lose health.
Wow. And you said they wanted to put gameplay first.
Yeah. And then another interesting thing I found interesting at least, is a lot of Kaneko's designs were shot down and censored by Nintendo. Most notably, nipples on women appearing demons and characters had to be removed. No surprise. So this game, or Megami Tensei 2, is very important to Atlus's legacy as a whole, as well as just future games. It's done a lot inspiration-wise, and as well as it reviewed pretty well. So Famitsu gave it a 33 out of 40, whereas Megami Tensei 1 had only got a 31, so all the reviews praised the improvements over the first game. So Atlus is definitely improving as just a developer as a whole, just with game design and everything. But some of the things that Megami Tensei did that inspired or influenced the future games in the series. So one of the biggest things, multiple endings. There's two endings in Megami Tensei 2, essentially a good ending and a bad ending. Well, they didn't get too deep into it with Megami Tensei 2, but they continued this idea of exploring morality and how it's not black or white, especially in like a post-apocalyptic world. And then, of course, Demon Fusion still being back, very significant to pretty much every Atlas game ever. I found this interesting too, that a lot of story elements and just ideas that they had for this game ended up being reused in Shin Megami Tensei later, the first game and a little bit of the second game. Megami Tensei 2 is the first Atlas game to have Yahweh in the series. And then this one's a lot more minor, but Sharon made his first appearance in Megami Tensei 2. And if you played Shin Megami Tensei 4, you definitely died a lot, so you've definitely seen Sharon at some point.
Yeah, isn't Sharon like what is he? He's the guy that basically drives the boat in the underworld.
Yeah, and then he'll like say, "Oh, pay me half your gold, and I'll let you go back to life."
Yeah.
And he functions that way too. You just pay half your gold, and you return to your last save point.
Yeah, they have to find some way to punish you for dying.
Yeah, but like it's still not even that significant of a setback. It's no game over either, which I appreciate. All right, if you're looking at my shared screen, Chad, I
Yeah.
want your reaction of this.
Okay. This looks like wow. Some time and effort definitely went into this. Like, you can tell that they put some thought into this, but why is Tom from Tom and Jerry in there?
So, for a little bit of context to this image, they translated the manual as well as the game itself, and this was at the end of the manual. They included this page just to show their credits. But to give credit where credit is due, the fan translation we used, the translation was done by Tom. Don't know who, just Tom.
Okay.
Hacking was done by Pennywise.
All right, that explains the
The
clown.
yeah, the manual. Oh, Tom the cat,
Yeah.
obviously too.
Right, yeah.
For cleaning up the manual text and translating that, FC and Chill worked on that.
Probably the snowman.
And then, also Almendrita, Drita, Almendrita worked on the manual as well.
There's only 4 names, but there's 5 people. Makes me wonder who else
My
was
guess
in.
is FC and Chill were actually 2 people, but like they come as a pair.
Okay.
Alright, so moving on to we can finally start getting into the meat and potatoes of Megami Tensei 2. So, if this game was produced today, there would be 100% an epilepsy warning. The opening is like pretty creepy. I'm gonna actually show you, Chad. I hope you don't have epilepsy. I've known you for a while, but I don't think you've ever disclosed that kind of medical information to me.
I mean, if you remember the Halloween parties we had with the strobe lights, I would definitely, if I had epilepsy, that would definitely have sent me on a trip.
True. Alright, so can you see my screen?
I can see your screen.
Alright, we're gonna watch the opening.
Yeah, so I had watched your gameplay before this, and I saw that opening, and I did have a note in there that it's just absolutely crazy. Like, you just see a giant face over a city as it is completely obliterated. It somewhat reminds me of the opening screen for Earthbound, just like with the dial cranked up to 11.
Yeah, it's in, to me it's interesting too because there's no audio that plays for at least like the bombing of the city and all that, and like I think it makes it even creepier that way.
Yeah, right. And it happens in the near future relative to when the game was released. So scary.
Right, so I am not going to show that clip though on YouTube because I don't want to risk people with epilepsy seeing that. But anyway, the intro itself tells us that a bombing happened in 1990X, and we later find out while playing the game that the game takes place in 20XX, but specifically it's 35 years after those bombs had dropped. So we have three main characters for our cast. We have the main character who, I don't know if you can see my mouse, Chad, but he's the guy in the middle.
Yep.
If you don't input a name for him, you will get Watashi, or like I or me, from Japanese to English. You have the girl here, and then they call her Shoujo, if
Okay.
you don't name her.
So just girl. Got it.
Yeah. And then you have the guy to your right, which is known as Tomodachi, if you don't name him.
So just friend.
Yeah, pretty self-explanatory there.
Yeah.
So the main character and the girl, you start out with them. I'll get more into the beginning of the story a bit. But you do travel with your friend for a bit, however, he ends up acting as more of like an anti-hero or like a rival to you pretty early into the game, and then he just leaves your party. And of course, you see in the back of there's demons. So yeah, we have plenty of demons you could customize your party with. So the game starts as, or the game's introduction starts as you're playing the game called Devil Busters, and it warns you, or it tells you that you're gonna feel like you're experiencing the game events firsthand. So this might be the first ever example of a game within a game. Now, Chad, do you have any experience with these?
Like, well, do you mean that the character in the game has to be playing the game? Or that I am playing a game within a game?
It could be either. I'm curious if, like, what examples you might have of either.
Okay, so like playing a game within a game. I had this one game, it was called Namco Museum Remix, where there was kind of like this overworld where you rolled around as a Pac-Man ball, and then you could play like games within that, but that's more, they were almost like mini games, but yeah, I don't think that's really a good example.
Wait. The Pitfall game you had on Wii.
Oh yeah, Pitfall, the Big Adventure. It was called something else. I think it was like the Mayan Expedition or something like that whenever it was released on Xbox and other consoles. But yeah, on the Wii, Pitfall, the Big Adventure, you could play the original Pitfall and Pitfall 2. So yeah, that's a good example.
Alright, the ones I was thinking of were Animal Crossing. At least on the GameCube one, you could get NES games to play in, like, it's an emulator that runs within the game itself to play that ROM. There was also the, like, game demos that Super Smash Bros. Brawl had.
Oh yeah, I remember somebody had beaten Ocarina of Time using that.
Yeah. But I was thinking more of like in a situation. It's not like a game per se, but Kingdom Hearts. The beginning of Kingdom Hearts 2, you have like Digital Twilight Town that Roxas is in,
Yeah.
and that's like kind of a similar situation. Although it's not like he's playing a game.
It's more so living a simulated life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like if so you're playing the game Devil Busters. If your character in Devil Busters starts to question his own existence, that would be similar to Kingdom Hearts, but I'm assuming that doesn't happen.
No. So if you did play Megami Tensei 1, you would immediately recognize what's going on in Devil Busters. You were at the top of Daedalus Tower in Mycom Town. That's where the beginning of Megami Tensei 1 starts, and it's the exact same scenario. They tell you you need to get to the bottom of the tower to fight Minotaur.
It's interesting though that the game takes place in a top-down perspective. Devil Busters takes place in a top-down perspective.
Yeah, it's really cool too seeing the dungeon just reimagined in the top-down space. And like seeing that how that layout translates into like a 2D plane versus the 3D, I say in air quotes, dungeon crawling.
Yeah.
So the NPC that originally gave you password saves in the Megami Tensei 1 now lets you quit the game. And when you quit the game, you're at your computer and your friends are like bullying you or like talking crap, like, oh, you're done playing the game, come on, keep playing, we need to see the Minotaur. But the important thing to note here is no password saves anymore. They got rid of them. And there are 2 save slots.
Wow, so ahead of their time. Just remember, Phantasy Star had 5. But no, 2 is great. 2 is great.
Yeah. And so if you have the option to walk away from the computer that you're playing Devil Busters on. And when you leave that room, that's when you enter the first person perspective of like dungeon crawling, and you could explore the bomb shelter essentially that you live in. Now there's literally nothing you could do in there. You could just talk to NPCs, but you can't leave. There's guards guarding the elevator. And there's some people telling you like, you don't want to leave here, there's demons outside, don't do it.
Speaking of NPCs, this is in the Devil Busters game. The generic, like, male NPC that you run into sometimes looks like a college frat boy. Like, he just has, like, this white tank top on.
Yeah.
It looks like a white tank top. That's a peak NPC design right there.
And it's gonna be like a really... See, I saw him more as like an older guy. Not like a frat boy, because I think he might be bald.
Maybe balding, yeah, on the top of his head. I'll have to take a closer look.
Yeah. But you mentioning that reminds me of that meme of that guy, that just old guy's like, oh, I'm just grilling. I'll have to flash a picture of that on screen.
Yeah. That's what that NPC is like.
So, since there's nothing we could do in the shelter at the moment, we just gotta keep gaming. Get back on that Devil Busters grind. So here this is for you, Chad, if you hadn't watched the gameplay, but you could see the comparison of like what the top-down gameplay looks like in Devil Busters versus what it looks like or not top-down, but like the first-person dungeon crawling looks like.
Now, I wonder if the top-down map in Devil Busters reflects the actual map layout in the original Megami Tensei.
It does.
It does? Oh, that's...
For that first floor, at least. The other floors are changed.
Okay.
And it's interesting, too, like, there's the elevator, which in that screenshot is, like, that door, like, one down and to the right.
Yeah.
But you can't do anything with that elevator, because, like, you never get that deep into the dungeon before you reach Minotaur. So some of the shops that we could see in Mycom, you have the Cathedral of Shadows, where you also get your characters revived at, but you could fuse your demons. You have an area where you get healed, and then you have an armor shop, essentially. And then in the shelter, I just showed a little bit, like, there's bars in most areas in the real world, and these bars, you could just heal yourself. You could get the Super Milk, which just heals your health. The Miracle Tonic heals, like, status effects. And then if you choose not to drink, you could also talk to NPCs at the bar to get a lot of good, useful hints, usually.
Oh, yeah, going down to the tavern to get those side quests. It's crazy that they sell milk at this bar. I know that this is a fan translation, so more than likely it's pretty faithful to the original. But milk at a bar? What are you, Luigi?
I'll take a milk.
Yeah, obviously.
I have one question about the shops, though. Did you think they were, like, reasonably priced, or was it just, like, absurdly, like, you'd have to do a ton of grinding to be able to buy anything meaningful?
They were reasonably priced. I thought, like, you get money very fast. I mean, part of that's just because you go through so many encounters, but
Yeah.
it didn't take long to, like, get the most expensive equipment in my Comtown. So I just want to mention some changes or improvements, stuff like that happened between Megami Tensei 1 and 2. So demon recruitment has been majorly upgraded, and now the player actually has more control when it comes to negotiating. So in Megami Tensei 1, when you talk to a demon to negotiate, you just had random, like, dialogue choices come up to choose. But in here, or Megami Tensei 2, you have, before you even start talking to the demon, you have multiple options. You could bribe it, you could calm it down, you could reason with it, or you could coerce it. You bribe it's like your final trial, essentially. Once you go into bribe it, that's when it starts asking you for like money or items. Calm it down improves the chances of you being successful with bribing it. Same with reasoning with it and coercing it.
So what's the point of having the different options then if they basically do the same things?
Essentially, it depends on the type of demon. Like you're rolling your luck. That's how they're going to react to certain situations.
Okay, so there's a little bit of strategy to it?
Yeah, so like when you pick calm down, for instance, you get 3 more options. One is you first can smile at the demon. The second is you put your weapon down. And then the third is you could walk towards it.
But geez, I don't know if I'd want to do any of those things to a demon.
Right, like you could kind of like, you could gauge the reaction the demon has as you try each one of those.
Yeah.
But as you go further down that list, you improve your chances, like I was saying, of being able to successfully bribe it. Because most times when you bribe the demon, like you'll give them some money, and then they'll just run away. Like, thanks for the free stuff.
Yeah, I've had that experience before in Megami Tensei games.
But it is so much easier to recruit demons now. Like, in my first hour of gameplay for Megami Tensei 1, I was only able to recruit 2 demons overall. Like, I can't even count how many demons I recruited in my first hour. Well, I should have counted, but it was a lot. I was even able to do demon fusion and stuff like that.
We'll talk about that later though, right?
Yeah. So Demon Fusion 2 has been improved. They've added 3 times Demon Fusion, where instead of just fusing 2 demons together, you fuse 3. It's pretty limited usage overall, but it's how the only way you could get demons categorized as God Beasts, Dark Deities, and Messengers. So the God Beasts are stuff like Sphinx, Barong, Garuda. You have the dark deities being like more prominent gods like Odin, Vishnu, and Shiva. And then the messengers are like the archangels like Uriel, Raphael, Cherubin, Nike. I don't know if that's the actual pronunciation, but I just think it's funny.
It is Nike. Nike's the Greek goddess of victory.
Oh, why are they a messenger then?
I don't know, they're a messenger of victory.
I guess so.
But yeah, it's weird seeing their names like Nike among all of these other prominent archangels.
Yeah, and like how it works essentially is like you add the levels up of the 3 demons you're fusing, and essentially it just looks in based on the types of demons you're fusing there, it'll put you in a certain category between like the god beast, dark deity, or messengers, and then like the total level just puts you to a certain demon. So like interestingly, like you can't get the ultimate or the strongest god beast demon because it's impossible to have a combination of demons that's over level 171. But like it's in the code there that you could do it. So stats are still the same as the previous game, however, they've doubled in size now. In Megami Tensei 1, they only went up to 20, but now they go up to 40. There's new weapon types. There's both guns and melee weapons, and I didn't understand, or at least in my first hour of gameplay, I didn't understand the difference between the two, but essentially how they function is some enemies take less damage from melee weapons and some take less damage from guns. Some enemies, like slimes, are just outright immune to gun damage. And then there's a lot more equipment spaces and just equipment types in general. You got suits, helmets, gloves, boots, visors, capes.
Yeah, I noted that whenever I was looking at your gameplay, there's just so much space for equipment.
And another big change is there's actually items now. In Megami Tensei 1, the only items were just jewels, which just healed you. They didn't actually take up an item slot. And another minor change, or this one's more of a minor change, the moon cycle has more of a purpose. So some shops like won't be open during certain moon phases, as well as there's a lot more story portions that are relevant based on the moon cycle, or you need to pay attention or at least know what moon cycle to follow to do certain events.
Now, back to the stat upgrades. Did you have like a direction to go with the stats? Like, did you feel like attack is more important, or maybe magic attack, whatever stat they call that, is more important? Or were you just kind of putting stats wherever you felt like?
There was 3 stats I prioritized more than any others,
Yeah?
being vitality, wisdom, and attack. So vitality is your health, wisdom is like your MP, and to a lesser extent like magic damage, and then attack is your physical attacks. So, like, your main character, for instance, he never gets spells or anything like that. So, other than, like, a story portion where your character needs to have, like, at least 7 wisdom to proceed to a boss fight, I was just pumping stats into vitality and attack for him.
Makes sense.
For the girl in my party, I did, like, an even distribution between vitality, wisdom, and attack. Didn't want her too frail. Wanted to make sure she could still help out the party with physical attacks, too. So demons are broken up into 3 categories of this game. There's evil demons, there's neutral demons, and there's good demons. NPCs actually explain this in the game too, and it's helpful to know. So evil demons, you can't recruit them. Neutral demons you can recruit, and then good demons can only be obtained through fusion. So there's only like a few demons that are neutral that you can actually talk to and recruit. Other demons you're just wasting your time with. But I did find it interesting that like they had this idea of splitting up the demons between like neutral, good, and evil, because we would see this get expanded upon further in Shin Megami Tensei eventually, where you have an alignment of law and chaos, and you could only get certain demons depending on your alignment at the time. So there's a lot of status elements, and I didn't go over these last time, but like I just want to mention some of them because some of them are more unique, even though they essentially all do the same thing. You have happy, panic, freeze, poison, sleep, numb, bound, sealed, cursed, stone, and pig.
That's a lot. That is a lot of status ailments. Are there items that you can use to heal each one of those?
Yes, and spells.
Now, is there like a unique item for each of them and a unique spell for each of them, or is there just like a cure-all?
There is a cure-all.
Yeah, okay.
But like I don't think there's a unique item for all of them, and I do think some of the status elements you have to go to like the NPC that heals you to get that healed.
Now, the other question about status ailments, because I hate this in games, can you be afflicted with more than one?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
I believe you're just one and done. A lot of these status elements end up just being that you don't take an action, whether it be random or a set amount of time.
Yeah, I see that. So it's just a way to prolong the battle and possibly make you slip up and take extra damage.
I'd say the interesting one is Pig. It reminds me a lot like the frog status in Final Fantasy, because you can't cast spells and your attack is just reduced, which to me that just sounds exactly like frog. Okay, so I can finally get into my gameplay a little bit. To start, I named my characters. I applied the stat points to the main character and the girl. I explored a little bit of my town in Devil Busters. I got some equipment, and then I walked away from the computer so I could actually explore the real world a little bit in the bomb shelter. But I saw very quickly that I couldn't actually do anything, so just went back to the game. So essentially I just grinded a little bit at the beginning. I recruited a pixie and a kobold, and I immediately fused them into a carbuncle. The carbuncle was busted early game because it has the Zeo spell, and the Zeo spell will hit multiple enemies, or if you're fighting just one enemy, it'll hit them like several times.
Yeah, so remind me, I know Megami Tensei kind of has a weird naming scheme for its spells. Zeo's like the lightning one, right?
That is correct. Interestingly, too, this translation has different names for the spells compared to the first game. Or at least, I don't know if that's just a fan translation, just making it more aligned with modern-day Megami Tensei, but like the fan translation for Megami Tensei 1 had the spell names that they actually use in Metaphor Refantasio.
Interesting.
So as I was exploring Daedalus Tower in Devil Busters, as you get towards the bottom of the tower, you could just walk into a door, and like every other door has like NPCs that just give you hints or information, but there's just an unmarked door that has Minotaur in it, and you just immediately start the boss fight.
Yeah, as soon as I saw Minotaur, I started having flashbacks to SMT4. I was like, it's gonna be rough.
Yeah, I thought the same too, because like whenever I first encountered him, like my party was pretty much all dead except my main character, but honestly, I think I had a chance to beat him with that encounter too, even though I just didn't.
Yeah.
Like, he's pretty weak in this game.
Yeah, I do agree. Whenever you went back to fight him at full strength, you took him out pretty easily.
Yeah, quite. He didn't even get a chance to attack. I beat him in one turn. So, I was nowhere near beating the Minotaur in Megami Tensei 1, but being able to beat him in under or around half an hour is just crazy to me. And so, once you beat Minotaur, you get a stone from him. And this is kind of like where the Devil Busters diverges from Megami Tensei 1. So you have to take that stone to a statue that's like a floor above Minotaur's room. And when you do this, you free the demon Pazuzu and you start getting lore dumps on what has happened. So this is where we find out that the bombs had dropped and then 35 years had passed and there's demons all in Tokyo or just Japan in general. So Pazuzu was sealed in the game itself by the demon Bale, and Pazuzu starts to guide us to... He wants help, essentially, to get revenge on Bale. Pazuzu also says that he was on a mission from a god to save the world from all the chaos and the demons, and that's when he got in conflict with Bale. I found it interesting that an NPC mentions Pazuzu being in the game and that he wasn't in any of the strategy guides, so how are you supposed to beat him? So to aid us in our journey, Pazuzu gave us the demon summoning program, and he gave us a copy of all the demons that we recruited in Devil Busters, but then he gave our friend the Zanma spell.
Any particular reason why he chose your friend and not your main player character?
Not that I'm aware of.
I guess your friend just had a higher charisma.
Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, so we no longer have the girl in our party, since she was just in the game. And now it's us and our friend. And Pazuzu warns us that Neberos has invaded the shelter, and so as soon as you start walking out of the computer room, you start seeing zombies and ghouls and stuff that you have to fight.
Yeah, this sounds straight out of a creepypasta. Oh, I beat my game, and then this weird demon started talking to me, and it turns out that there were demons in the real world now.
Yeah, it would be pretty creepy, and you go to the armory, you could get guns for free. Let's see, there's a guy that gives you 750 Maka just because you beat the game. He promised you. You could talk to Joe's girlfriend. Oh, I called the friend Joe. That's what I named him.
Yeah.
But his girlfriend's in the room, and you kind of just ignore her. Don't worry, we'll protect you or anything like that. Just nothing. It's weird.
The cold shoulder.
Pretty much. And you do have to talk to her eventually. She's mandatory. She gives you an item that lets you travel elsewhere. But she continues just to get the cold shoulder, and she starts asking you her dialogue updates throughout the game too, which is pretty interesting. So it was at this point, or that's where my gameplay essentially ended, was I did try to fight Neberos, but I wasn't strong enough at the time. What I should have done is, because you get access to the elevator, and I could have went to the first floor, which actually lets you leave the shelter and explore the overworld. And now the overworld is actually a top-down perspective as well. It doesn't look like the Devil Busters gameplay, though. The character sprite is different, as well as just the map itself looks different. But there's more demons that are available, and there's another town nearby that has a cathedral of shadows so that you can fuse demons and get stronger or strong enough to fight Neberos.
I'm so glad in a post-apocalyptic wasteland the most important thing to have is a cathedral of shadows.
Yeah, you gotta fuse them demons somehow. So overall, the battles felt super fast-paced, and we'll see what my encounter rate was later. But I was gaining money, I was gaining experience like crazy, I was fighting demons all the time. And then demon negotiation was very reasonable, it was very easy, or a lot easier and more reasonable to actually recruit demons now. But like I said, the encounter rate was insanely high. And then I have to give props to the NPCs being way less cryptic in this game and actually gave you good information on how to play the game. And of course, the music was phenomenal. You could have told me I was playing a Super Famicom game and I would have believed you. So some things that I didn't get to in my first hour of gameplay, and I think this first one's the most interesting thing, is autopilot. So basically after you beat Neberos, you actually get it, but you could set a point A and a point B, in a dungeon, and you could just select autopilot and your character will automatically walk to that point. So whenever you enter a new dungeon, you just set point A at the entrance, and then if you get lost, you're not lost anymore. Your character will walk back to that point automatically. The only thing that will restrict it is if you're in later dungeons that have pitfalls, for instance, that just breaks it, so it no longer works since you can't replicate falling through the floor or jumping back up through it to go backwards. So they definitely had to limit it that way. But that just really does show that like the developers really wanted to improve the issue of the first game of it being very easy to get lost. Of course, another thing that I didn't get to was the ending and that the fact that there's multiple endings. But if you do everything to get the good ending, you essentially just can pick yes or no to get the bad ending or the good ending towards the end. And all that really changes other than the ending itself is just what's your final boss. And then there's also multiple roadmaps. You'll go to Hell eventually to fight Hell's generals. Sounds pretty cool.
Final Fantasy II did it first.
Sorta. Like,
Yeah.
is Pandemonia like really considered Hell, or is like
Yes.
or like the Ruby Passage, all that? Because like
The Jade Passage.
or Jade Passage, yeah.
The Jade Passage, I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know if that's based off of anything, but Pandemonium is the capital of Hell in Paradise Lost.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I never like thought because like it's I guess he just brought Pandemonia to Earth. I just assumed that he transformed the castle into Pandemonium instead.
Well, that's for Final Fantasy II. Maybe we'll cover a redo of Final Fantasy II, but for now, yeah, that's cool. You get to travel to Hell and fight Hell's generals in Megami Tensei 2.
All right, do you want to start asking me some questions, Chad?
Yeah, we're just about done with talking about the gameplay and whatnot, so I think it's time we start with the gameplay stats. So I'm curious to know, you talked about how high your encounter rate was, so how long did it take you to get into an encounter? And how many encounters did you encounter?
All right, I got into my first encounter 4 minutes 6 seconds in, and actually, I want you to take a guess first on like how high this number is.
100. That would be my baseline guess.
Okay. Well, you weren't too far off. 20% off, to be exact. 120 encounters. That's a record that's probably not going to get broken in this series for a long time.
Yeah, that's hard. That is hard to beat. 120. So in just 1 hour.
2 per minute.
Yeah. Crazy. So with all of those battles, you probably did a lot of leveling up. When was your first level up?
4 minutes 50 seconds, so like not even a minute after my first encounter.
All right. But were those level ups evenly spaced out? What level did you end at?
I was level 9 at the end. So like it slowed down as you got further in, but like you still were gaining levels pretty fast.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Then, as you're, leveling up, traveling around, you probably visited a few towns and a few dungeons. How many?
Yeah, so for towns, I'd say 2 if you consider the shelter a town, and then Mycom City, and then dungeons being Daedalus Tower, and then do you consider the shelter a dungeon since it starts getting overrun with demons, like after you beat the game, or Devil Busters?
Yeah, we might have to work around our definition of what it is to be a town and what it is to be a dungeon.
Before you move on, I just wanted to mention too, like with leveling up, it's much faster in this game because it took me over like almost 12 minutes to get my first level up in Megami Tensei 1 versus getting it in under a minute in 2. And then like my final level in Megami Tensei 1 was just 5.
So, like you said, it was kind of just improvements all around going from Megami Tensei 1 to Megami Tensei 2.
For sure.
Yeah, but there's one more question that I need to ask, and that is, well, actually, a set of 2 questions. As you were traveling from these towns and fighting monsters and whatnot, you certainly had to heal up at some point. So how many times did you have to visit an inn? And did you happen to meet the Grim Reaper's cold grip throughout your gameplay and die?
Yes. Okay, so the number of inn visits was 5, and I find this very surprising overall. Like, just for that many encounters, that'd be way more. And then I died twice. So actually, if you die in Devil Busters, you get the Minotaur that taunts you for the game over screen.
I like that.
But if you die in the real world, you get the interaction with Charon that I was mentioning earlier.
Right. Yeah. So overall, how do you rate the game? Do you think you'd pay $1 for this first hour?
Oh, absolutely. I'd pay $1. I mean, even after I recorded, like, I kept playing more because, like, it was pretty addicting. And, maybe this is controversial, but I'm going to say it. Best Famicom/NES JRPG. Like, it just feels like a Super Nintendo or Super Famicom game. Like, that's just how good it is.
I definitely feel like an episode down the road we'll have to do a tier list, maybe, of the games we played.
Alrighty, well, I believe that wraps up everything that I wanted to discuss today on Megami Tensei 2. Thank you so much for listening.
All right, have a good night. And Join us next time when we cover a pretty cryptic game that doesn't receive a lot of coverage on the internet, Cleopatra no Maho. See you guys then.
Forget to walk like an Egyptian. Thank you for watching today and sticking to the end. We hope we gave an accurate representation of the first hour of gameplay, and more importantly, we hope we inspired you to check out the game and give it a chance. If you liked the video, please like, comment, and subscribe for more JRPG content from us. We have a lot of projects in production, so keep an eye out. Let us know what games and series you'd like us to cover in the future. Follow us on Twitter at encounter_rate. If you want to listen to our content in a podcast format, check us out at the places listed on screen. Links will be in description. We plan to upload to additional podcast sites in the future, and if you have any preferred podcast sites you wish we were on, let us know in the comments. Thank you again for watching. Until next time, have a great day.